So imagine a highly exclusive country club that just suddenly makes this unprecedented announcement.
Oh,
They send out a letter to all the members stating they are never, ever issuing another membership. Like, not next year, not in 10 years. The roster's just locked forever.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And if you want in, you have to wait for someone to leave, and you literally have to buy their specific spot. Now, ask yourself, what happens to the price of those existing memberships like the very next morning?
Oh, they would instantly skyrocket. I mean,
Oh,
overnight.
exactly. And today, our mission is to look at a real life version of this exact scenario that's playing out right now in the real estate market. We are taking a deep dive into the microeconomics of a place called Lake Santee, Indiana.
Right.
We have this fascinating piece of real estate marketing from August 2026 by a realtor named Cara Conde. And, well, her premise is incredibly bold.
It really is.
She claims this might be the actual, quote, final summer to ever own a true waterfront property on this lake for under $500,000.
Yeah, which is a massive claim. And it immediately begs the question of whether we are looking at standard realtor marketing spin, or if we're actually witnessing a fundamental economic shift in a localized market.
Right.
And to figure that out, we really have to look closely at the physical mechanics of this particular lake. So we're dealing with a private 250-acre body of water. It's about 10 miles northeast of Greensburg.
Okay.
But the entire economic engine of this community is driven by one single unchangeable number.
Oh, lots.
Exactly. The lake is surrounded by a strictly finite number of residential lots. There are exactly 1,680 of them.
That number is the walled garden, not 1,681, not 1,700, just 1,680.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a typical American real estate story, if demand spikes in a town, a developer simply buys a farm on the outskirts, right? They pave some roads and they build 100 new homes.
Right, they just expand outward.
Yeah, the supply stretches to meet the demand, and that keeps prices relatively stable. But here, the borders are absolute. They are literally drawn in water and stone. You physically cannot build a new field of waterfront.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Which turns this community into a completely closed ecosystem. The shoreline is mathematically finite.
Mhm.
So when demand increases in a space where supply is permanently capped, you see a pressure cooker effect on property values.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what makes Lake Santee such a perfect case study is what happens when you introduce the second variable to that pressure cooker, which is capital.
Oh, right.
We are seeing a massive shift in how people view these 1,680 lots. They're no longer just, places to park a rusty trailer for a weekend fishing trip. The capital being poured into this closed ecosystem is entirely transforming its fundamental DNA.
I noticed that specifically with the new construction detailed in this area. There is a section mentioned called Itawamba Trail. And what they are building on these previously vacant lots completely changes the expectation of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We are talking about highly modern open concept designs, optimized for natural light.
Absolutely.
And the garages, this kind of blew my mind. They're building massive 3-car garages, but they aren't even for minivans.
No.
They are specifically being designed and marketed as storage for lake toys.
Right. Think about the psychology behind that architectural choice.
What?
Dedicating that much square footage entirely to recreational vehicle storage like pontoon boats, lifted golf carts, jet skis.
Yeah.
It tells you exactly who the new target demographic is.
Yeah.
It is a buyer with significant disposable income who views the property as a luxury recreational hub.
Totally.
When developers start building toy garages, they are signaling that the community has transitioned from a modest getaway to a wealth destination.
And that transition bleeds over into the existing homes too, doesn't it? Like the older housing stock, those standard 1980s and 1990s ranch homes are seeing incredibly heavy capital injections.
Oh, definitely.
Longtime owners are looking at the modern mansions going up next door and realizing their own property values actually justify massive upgrades.
Yeah, they have the equity now.
Exactly. So they are putting on new siding, completely tearing out and rebuilding their private docks, expanding their decks to massive proportions. They are elevating their modest middle-class vacation homes to match the new luxury standard of the lake.
They are. But the most fascinating economic indicator isn't just what's happening on the private lots, it is what is happening at the community level.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, in a closed ecosystem like this, the Property Owners Association, the POA, effectively acts as a hyper-local microgovernment.
Oh, I see.
And their fiscal policy, like how they choose to tax themselves and spend their money, directly dictates property values.
Oh, I see.
And They are currently executing massive infrastructure upgrades that are permanently altering the utility of the neighborhood.
Right. The pool house project is the perfect example of this. The community didn't just, pass the hat to patch a leaky roof.
No, they went big.
They really did. They blew entirely past their initial funding goal. They unlocked a tier of matching funds and went completely all out. They added full ADA accessibility, installed a pool lift, and crucially, they added commercial heating and cooling.
That's the big one.
Yeah, they turned a seasonal summer amenity into a year-round facility. Add to that a brand new fire station designed specifically to handle the growing number of full-time year-round residents.
It's a total shift.
Mhm.
And the environmental infrastructure they're investing in is arguably even more important for long-term value, even if it sounds a bit technical.
Yeah.
The community funded these extensive sediment reduction programs and creek bank stabilization efforts.
Let's actually pause there and unpack that, because creek bank stabilization sounds like something you'd sleep through in a geology seminar.
It really does.
But it has to be a huge economic moat for this community.
Yeah.
Why does dirt management matter so much to house prices?
It matters so much because lakes naturally want to fill themselves in.
Hmm.
Over decades, rain washes soil from the surrounding land into the water.
Oh,
So the lake gets shallower, the water gets muddier, and eventually the community has to pay for dredging, which is literally bringing in heavy machinery to scoop the mud out of the bottom of the lake.
that sounds cheap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Dredging is an astronomically expensive process. It usually results in massive surprise financial assessments for every single homeowner.
Ouch.
Yeah. So by investing heavily up front to stabilize the creek banks and stop the sediment from entering the water in the first place, they did two things.
Okay.
First, they drastically improved the water clarity, which instantly makes the lake more desirable for swimming and boating.
Right.
Second, they neutralized a massive future financial liability. When wealthy buyers look at a lake community, they look at the health of the water. Healthy water equals a stable investment.
That makes total sense. They're essentially buying an insurance policy for their property values.
Exactly.
But this brings up a huge question, and I have to challenge this whole concept.
Okay, let's hear it.
We are calling this amenity-driven appreciation. They are making the water clearer, building year-round heated pools, building new fire stations.
Right.
On paper, it sounds like absolute paradise. But aren't these exact community upgrades a double-edged sword? Like, if you are that middle-class buyer out there hoping to find a modest, affordable lake house for your family under $500,000, aren't these massive civic improvements the exact weapon being used to kill your dream?
Oh, absolutely.
By making the community so premium and so bulletproof, the POA is actively pricing out the regular folks.
That is the tragic paradox of community improvement, and it happens in every highly desirable, geographically constrained area. The double-edged sword is very sharp here.
Yeah.
When a community collectively decides to raise its standards and invest in premium infrastructure, the baseline cost of admission naturally skyrockets.
Right.
Higher property values lead to a wealthier demographic moving in. That wealthier demographic has higher expectations for amenities, which leads to more investment, which pushes values even higher.
It's a feedback loop.
It is a total feedback loop. The people who bought a modest cabin 20 years ago look like geniuses because they benefit from the massive equity gains. But the barrier to entry for the next generation of middle-class buyers becomes mathematically insurmountable. The affordable lake house isn't just selling fast, it is being upgraded out of existence entirely.
Which perfectly frames the actual real estate listing at the heart of this deep dive. Let's look at what the absolute bottom of this transitioning market actually looks like right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
The property Cara Conde is using to sound this alarm is 1577 N Santee Drive in Greensburg. The price was just reduced to $450,000, so it sits right in that vanishing sub-$500K sweet spot we've been talking about.
And looking at the structure itself is incredibly revealing. You are looking at a 1993 ranch-style home.
Okay.
It has 3 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and a full walkout basement. It gives you roughly 2,350 to 2,700 square feet of living space, depending on how you calculate the finished areas.
That's a good size.
It is. And the current owners have done some updates, adding brand new windows and siding, and it features a massive deck.
It's a solid, nice house. But let's go back to our country club analogy.
Okay.
Buying this 1993 ranch for $450,000 is essentially someone selling you their country club membership, but they are throwing in a slightly dated locker.
That's a great way to put it.
Because when you read the marketing, the house itself almost feels secondary. The real value, the thing being pitched, is the dirt.
Yes.
The property sits on a 0.52-acre lot with a private dock and direct water access. And there is a specific phrase used in the marketing that I think is absolute genius. They call out the property's expansive backyard buffer.
It is a brilliant framing technique. When you are selling a 30-year-old middle-class home in a neighborhood that is rapidly transitioning to luxury, you don't focus heavily on the linoleum in the kitchen.
No.
You focus on the land as an empty canvas.
Yes. The marketing doesn't just say, hey, you have a big patch of grass. It explicitly commands the buyer to envision building an outdoor kitchen, putting in a pool, or installing a private putting green.
Right.
They are selling the potential to build a luxury estate on a middle-class budget. Think about the psychology of a buyer looking at this.
How powerful.
They are driving down Itawamba Trail, looking at the brand new builds with the massive 3-car toy garages, and they are feeling intense FOMO. Fear of missing out.
Oh, completely.
The marketer knows this, so the pitch becomes, buy this access point now, secure your spot in the walled garden. You have the physical space to upgrade your lifestyle to match your neighbors later.
And the reason that pitch works so effectively is the million-dollar neighborhood effect.
Right.
The higher-end waterfront homes on Lake Santee are already commanding well over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
In real estate, the ceiling of a micro-market heavily influences the floor.
Yeah, for sure.
If the top of the market is pushing past $1 million, the floor of the market is naturally going to be dragged upward by sheer proximity.
It's the old real estate adage, right? Buy the worst house on the best block.
Exactly.
Except in this case, the block is an entire 250-acre lake. If your neighbor's property is worth $1.2 million, your half-acre of shoreline is intrinsically protected from losing value, regardless of what year your house was built.
Precisely. The realtor isn't just selling a 3-bedroom house to a family that needs shelter. She is framing this transaction as a rapidly closing window of opportunity to enter an appreciating asset class.
Right.
The subtext is very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Get your foot in the door of this million-dollar community for half the price while you still mathematically can. Because once the last under $500 K house is bought and remodeled, that price tier will never exist on this lake again.
So we have the walled garden of 1,680 lots, and we have the internal mechanics of a micro-government upgrading the infrastructure to luxury standards.
Yeah.
But we have to zoom out to understand why this specific lake commands this kind of premium. I mean, we see this dynamic in Malibu, we see it in Aspen, but this is a private lake in Indiana. Why the intense urgency here?
Geography is destiny in real estate. The appeal here is heavily anchored in proximity.
Okay.
The lake is located near the everyday practical conveniences of Greensburg, like grocery stores, hardware stores, medical care. But more importantly, on a macro level, it is within a very comfortable driving distance to major economic hubs like Indianapolis and Cincinnati.
That shift in how we view proximity is huge, especially post-2020. The rise of flexible and hybrid work schedules fundamentally altered the vacation home market.
It really did.
We moved from a fly-to-vacation culture to a drive-to-lifestyle culture. If you have to get on a plane to go to your second home, you might use it 3 weeks a year.
Right.
But if it is a 90-minute drive from your office in Cincinnati, you can leave at 3 p.m. on a Thursday and work remotely from the lake on Friday. You end up using the property 40 weekends a year instead of 3.
And that frequency of use completely changes how buyers justify the price tag, which leads directly into how the lifestyle itself is marketed.
Oh, definitely.
The emphasis here is heavily placed on a 4-season lifestyle. This community is not presented as a summer camp that shuts down after Labor Day.
Right. They specifically sell the winter, which I find fascinating. Usually, a lake house in February is considered dead time. It is a frozen, empty liability that you are just paying taxes on while you wait for June.
Yeah, just sitting there.
But the marketing flips that completely. They talk about summer fireworks and active spring boating, sure, but they also highlight fall fishing and cozy winter.
It's a winter.
They are expanding the utility of the asset. By framing the winter as a cozy, quiet retreat, they're telling the buyer, you aren't just buying 3 months of fun, you are buying 12 months of lifestyle.
And that 12-month lifestyle is heavily supported by the social fabric of the community. Going back to your country club analogy, when you buy into Lake Santee, you are buying into an active, highly curated social scene managed by the Property Owners Association.
Yeah.
They maintain the shared beaches, the security, the tennis and pickleball courts, and the marina. But they also facilitate book clubs, daily exercise classes, and wildlife groups.
You are buying instant community. You don't have to spend 5 years awkwardly waving to your neighbors hoping to make a friend. You just sign up for the pickleball tournament.
Exactly. It's plug and play.
And the person orchestrating this specific message, Cara Conde, is listed as a luxury home marketing specialist. It is noted that she uses cutting-edge digital technology and highly sophisticated tactics. She is taking the exact same psychological triggers used to sell $10 million estates in Florida and applying them to a $450,000 ranch home in Indiana.
It is a masterclass in behavioral economics. By deploying luxury marketing strategies at a middle-tier price point, she elevates the perceived value of the property before the buyer even steps foot on the driveway.
So, reading between the lines of all this sophisticated marketing, I have to ask, is the buyer of this $450,000 house actually just buying $1 million lot and waiting?
Wow.
Like when someone closes on 1577 N Santee Drive, are they paying for the 1993 ranch-style architecture, or are they paying purely for the finite access to the dirt and the water?
In a market constrained by absolute physical boundaries, the structure itself almost always becomes secondary to the land it sits on. Now, the 1993 ranch is perfectly livable, and with the new windows and siding, it's a turnkey property.
Right.
A family could happily live there for 30 years without changing a thing. But from a purely economic standpoint, the true value, the appreciating asset, is the 0.52 acres of finite shoreline.
Because you can always tear down a house, you can add the outdoor kitchen, you can put in the pool, you can build the 3-car toy garage, but you cannot manifest more shoreline.
No, you can't. And that is the crux of the final summer claim. What Cara Conde is deploying is scarcity marketing.
Yeah.
Using phrases like last chance and referencing the peak summer season creates a psychological ticking clock in the mind of the buyer.
It definitely works.
Right. And in a lot of industries, scarcity marketing is artificial. A sneaker company releases a limited edition shoe, and if you miss it, you miss it. But they could easily just make more shoes.
Right. It's manufactured.
Yes, exactly. What makes this marketing so highly effective and so urgent is that the scarcity is not artificial. It is backed by absolute geographical reality. You can build more houses in the suburbs, you can build taller apartment buildings in the city, but you cannot build more lakefront on a closed 250-acre private lake.
It is the ultimate limited edition item.
And as the community continues to invest heavily in itself, with the year-round heated pool house, the dedicated fire station, the multi-million-dollar environmental dredging and bank stabilization, the intrinsic value of that limited edition item skyrockets.
Yeah.
The marketing isn't just hype. It is simply illuminating a mathematical certainty. A permanently fixed supply combined with increasing remote work demand and massive infrastructure investment absolutely equals skyrocketing prices.
So, to summarize what we have unpacked in this micro-market deep dive, Lake Santee is a textbook example of a walled garden. You have a hard, unchangeable cap of exactly 1,680 residential lots. You have a micro-government executing major community upgrades that are systematically shifting the demographic from weekend vacationers to high-end, full-time residents.
Exactly.
You have a strategic geographical location perfectly suited for the modern hybrid work lifestyle, sitting right between major cities like Indy and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And all of these forces are converging to rapidly and permanently erase the existence of the under $500,000 waterfront home.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
The $450,000 case study on Santee Drive isn't just a house for sale, it is a bellwether. It is a blinking red light signaling the end of an era of middle-class affordability on this lake.
It really is. It is a fascinating microcosm of broader real estate trends we are seeing across the country. And it raises an incredibly important question, something for us to step back and consider as we look at the housing market as a whole.
Okay, what's that?
If a finite shoreline naturally and inevitably pushes out middle-tier pricing as a community invests in its own infrastructure, will true waterfront eventually become an exclusively elite asset class nationwide? Are we rapidly approaching a future where regular middle-class homebuyers will have to permanently settle for being merely lake-adjacent?